It's good to see you all. Hey, folks. What brings you in today? What has you darkening my door? Hi, folks. Jem says, sleepy but here and stink. I'm greeted by commercials. Blech! Indeed. I don't run those, by the way. I've the more I've been thinking about it, the less I want to be throwing ad revenue over at Twitch. So, hey, if you want to support the show, I apologize for the ads. This is of course not a message to Gems because Gems already does. But yeah, y'all, anybody who wants to support the show, doesn't care for the ads so much, well, Patreon's the way to go. Because your boy doesn't like running the ads. That may not always be the case, you know? If I can pick up some sponsors that would let me bring a little bit more flair, a bit more pizzazz to some of these, then I would do that. But I'd like to think that I would be reading those myself as opposed to just having ads thrown at you at random. You know, like the pros do. Pro flowers. Marinver, hello. Marinver says, well, Marinver has revealed the reason that they're here. Hey, Marinver? Marinver says they were brought in by none other than ready, aim, side cannons. I'm gonna try and switch it up pretty regularly. Do my best to. I think I've done an admirable job so far. Everybody, welcome back to Side Cannons. This is, of course, our Wednesday show, where we tell some stories with the roll of the dice. We've been hanging out in the realms of Rositas for multiple years at this point, which feels so very strange and so very rewarding. You know, I don't know if y'all feel the same way, but for me, it is, well, frankly, it's incredible to have this world that sort of kicks around the back of my head, and I'm constantly thinking of little things, little details. I've got pages and pages of notes for it. I'm trying more and more to think about how to integrate those into campaigns. It's a little tough, I'll be honest with you. Because, you know, sometimes I have an idea where it's like, oh yeah, this is a really cool, interesting idea about one of the moons, but what it would be like to visit it and whether or not there are people who live there and, you know, what their relationship is with the other moons. And actually, here's the thing, it has nothing to do with the campaign we're currently running. So good luck there, bub. That's what my imagination tends to be like. But I've also got quite a few things that I have found opportunity to involve so far. I'm really excited because I've had a chance to dive in with some of the great lore work that Dahlia has done, and I definitely don't want to shortchange some of the lore work that y'all have done as well, because of course Gems has been up in the mix. You know, Gems definitely was here for a lot of the process and really contributed quite a bit. And then Dahlia had created some incredible documents for the lore of some of the major factions of vampires and lycan. And I've had a chance to start to sort of get those involved in the campaign. I didn't want to do it too quickly, but I also don't want to do it too slowly. And so I'm going to try and ramp that up a little bit as I have been sort of ramping up the way that experience is going for us. I want to ramp up the lore drops. And today's going to be a really good opportunity to do that, because today, I think we're going to have a lot of opportunity to sort of react to the things that have been going on. it's been a pretty action-packed series thus far, and I think after 9 episodes, as of chapter 10 here, I think we've earned a chance to sort of like chill out a little bit and maybe do some digging into some of the things that we've explored thus far. And so, you know, some of these little notes, these little loose ends that we might not know everything about yet, or might be curious to investigate more. I'm of course going to be reviewing that sort of stuff. I'm going to jump into my notes here and sort of give y'all a good idea of what loose ends still exist, because I know, you know, it's very possible y'all didn't just spend the last, let's see, 20 to 25 hours reviewing all of the chapters of this story so far, because there are 9 of them, and each chapter has been about 2 hours long, roughly. Hey, good series so far, gang. Good series. Very pleased. Let's talk a bit of review. Now, I don't want to get into this too hard until we've got a bit more of our folks in here. But then again, of course, you know, like I said, today is going to be a less action-driven day. And I really want to give both Igor and Illyria a chance to take a look at some of these things, some of these loose ends that we've been collecting. Let's start by talking about our vows, I think. These are the quests that we are currently undergoing. These quests are going to be the way in which we earn XP. Many of you all know that already, but some of that has been cut out because I try to, once the actual chapter has started, I try to cut out a lot of the non-story elements. And so I will just remind you all that basically 1-star vows are pretty easy, pretty short, and will not earn as much XP. And then 5-star vows are difficult. They are long-term, and they also are going to drop the most XP. And then that XP can be used to buy assets and stuff within this system. None of that is particularly important to y'all because in this this second chat play campaign, after our first one, which was a year long, I sort of realized I want to streamline. I want to make this all about just the very organic process of y'all telling me what you want Igor to do. Don't worry about moves or stats as much. I'll do the system on my side. So don't worry about it too much. But you should know what his quests are currently. You can use the quests command at any time, and that will bring up our current quests for Igor. As you can see, they range from 1-star to 5 stars, 1-star being pretty easy. Our current ones for Igor, you've got sort of an open slot here because I'm trying to maintain about 5 vows max. I don't want to totally top it out. Jem says, when you say vows, I keep thinking they're getting married. Marin agrees on that one. Not yet, as they are both about 12, 13 years old. It may be a bit. Hopefully it will be a bit. Currently, Igor's quests, a 4-star quest, avenge your own death. A 1-star quest to make a good impression on Penelli. Penelli is a little ghost girl, and that I think is going to be one of your sort of longest standing ones. A 3-star quest, pursue academia, and a 2-star quest, study the history of Duskin. Now, you've made a bit of progress on some of these. Currently, this is not the star system. This is sort of like check boxes out of 10. Each one of these is out of 10. The long-term ones, the 5-star ones, they fill up really slowly. Sort of a percentage of a tick mark of a checkbox at once. Whereas a 1-star quest fills up 3 of these boxes at once. So I would just let you know what your progress is on these so far. To avenge your own death, you are currently at 1 out of 10. 1 checkbox out of 10. To make a good impression on Penelli, you are currently at 6 out of 10. To pursue academics, you are at 1 out of 10. And to learn about the history of Duskin, you're currently at 6 out of 10 as well. So, avenging your own death, making a good impression on Penelli, pursuing academia, and learning about the history of Duskin. You have got these in front of you. And as I talk about my review, we are going to be talking a little bit more about the loose ends that have actually come up. Meanwhile, Illyria has got some as well. 5-star quest, return to Brackwater, ready to settle down. 4-star quest, discover the truth of the underbrush. 1 star, find out about my condition. And then 3 stars, pursue expeditioneering. To return to Brackwater, I'm at 1 out of 10. To discover the truth of the underbrush, I have yet to achieve a full check mark. I'm at like half a check mark right now. To find out about my condition, I'm at 9 out of 10. Which I want to say... Now, wait a second. I'm at 9 out of 10, but I didn't choose to resolve that one? That seems a little strange to me. That's a little strange. And then pursue expeditioneering. 1 out of 10. Does that seem strange to anybody else? I might have to go back and listen to that again because to find out about my condition, I'm at 9 out of 10, but I didn't resolve it. I think my other one was to return that, you know, the Wild Stallions want me to bring that box south, and I've done a pretty good job on that one so far, and I want to say I resolved that one, but I've also got this 9 out of 10 to find out about my condition. That seems kind of wild to me. I feel like I'm just gonna go for it. Let's just go for it. Let's fully send it right now. All right, shall we? Oh, I think the reason is because I was still in sort of wolf form and had not yet had a chance to I don't know, to really capitalize on the things that I had learned yet. Just wasn't ready for wasn't ready for that. All right, gang. I have a delicious Earl Grey Arnold Palmer here. I've got some of my good friends in chat, and I'm excited. I think it's about time we launched in and talked about our adventure for the day. What say you? Welcome back to night school at Vesperale Academy. We find ourselves catching back up with Igor and Illyria after the most terrible day either one of them have ever had. Maybe. Certainly one of the worst in recent memory. Igor and Illyria are, of course, a pair of newly minted Duskin. Igor has died recently within the past couple of weeks and returned as a ghost. Still learning about that process, what you're able to accomplish as a ghost, why you might be a ghost. That second question is mostly unexplored for the moment. Illyria, bitten by both a werewolf and then also by a mysterious white tiger lycan in the forest. Illyria becomes a werewolf, and as they have tried to make this school their new home, this secret academy for Duskin, for these groups that are associated with the night, these ghosts and vampires and lycan, as they've tried to make the castle their home, they are tied up by old obligations. They have to head back to Dawngreet if they want to complete their mission for the Wild Stallions, because they know the Wild Stallions will be back. And so they agree, just one last job. Illyria and Igor sneak back to Dawngreet. Out of the castle, into the woods, to grandmother's house we go. The two of them sneak to Dawngreet and very quickly catch up with Illyria's mission, which is to transport this box south. They've got the box. That happens really quickly. And then they head over to complete just the last bits of Igor's mission, to case the town, to give information once the Wild Stallions return. Unfortunately, as Igor asks Illyria to sort of use their instincts, their heightened animal instincts, their sense of smell, to try and identify, how many garrison guards are currently on duty right now, we had a really bad twist in the die. And so Illyria began to transform right outside the garrison. Over the course of the night, Igor, desperate to get Illyria back home safely, because Illyria is throughout, I rolled basically every single turn to see if Illyria could manage these instincts, these animal instincts, and every time but once the answer came up: no. Illyria is still seized by these powerful urges, and as such, it was a difficult night, especially for Igor. Trying to pull Illyria away, sending a herd of pigs into the garrison to try and distract the guards. But nonetheless, Igor found out just how injured he can be by other Duskin when Illyria, unfortunately, got a grip on his hand, and in spite of his ghastly form, was able to injure him quite a bit with their fangs. It goes even further south when the garrison guards chase us up north into the expeditioners' camp, and we find ourselves facing off against a pair of Luca Brusca hunters. They wound Illyria. They wound them so severely that Illyria finds himself on the gates of death, but manages to come out of it cursed but alive. Now, as the school hunters have dragged Illyria home by great difficulty, and Igor has found a way underneath the forest near Dawngreet up to Castle Vesperale, the two of us have returned to the castle. Igor did his best to try and explain the situation to the headmistress, to try and mitigate some of the harm done by our mission. Unfortunately, the headmistress's words seemed to indicate that we weren't going to get a lot of help here. She told Igor essentially that the consequences of this are going to be felt, and they're going to hit nobody harder than Illyria. I want to state, by the way, that these are the consequences of the actions that Illyria and Igor took, not the consequences of Igor's action. Does that make sense? This is not like, it's not like you went off on some rogue solo mission and I had to come help you out. If anything, it was Igor trying to save the day there. Well, Illyria made a whole mess of things. But it was our decision together to go back into Dawngreet, and that is how we ended up where we ended up and how we ended up. Illyria is currently bound up in chains and being taken away. They have to be put somewhere for their own safety right now, and Igor is following them out into the rest of the castle. Everyone, that is where we find ourselves, and I hope you will enjoy this next episode. Before we get into it, I want to make sure that we have explored a little bit of the loose ends that we have currently got in place, because I think those are going to be important to explore at some point, or at the very least, I want y'all to be aware of them, so that, if you do wish to do some more exploring of things that we haven't talked about in a while, something that made you curious, but you don't remember it from, 4 chapters ago or something, then you got a chance to. We, of course, have one of our prime questions. Who held the runic chain? That chain that killed Igor. Another question, what was that key for? We, of course, have the ghastly creature that attacked down in the catacombs on our very first day here, but we've learned a bit more about that creature. This figure, this individual that seems to pop up down in the catacombs, had a brief conversation with Igor that left Igor unsettled. Of course, we've got the question of Penelli. What's Penelli's deal? Have you made a good impression on Penelli yet? We know that Chu, the werewolf, sort of head of a little gang of werewolf students, is pretty actively trying to recruit Illyria. We've got the box that Illyria has been tasked with bringing down south, currently sort of embedded in a wall after Igor was able to get it just to the wall of the castle and had to leave it in the catacombs in a place that no one is going to come across it. But nonetheless, it is sort of buried in a wall here. We've got these Dear Diary notes, these little scrolls that Igor continues to find that begin with Dear Diary and have thus far expressed essentially the thoughts of someone who indicates that they are trapped somewhere between the, not literally trapped, but between the academy and the house. Igor isn't precisely sure what these things mean, but someone who has apparently been doing some illicit activities and fears being caught. We, of course, have some things from Igor's history that may still be questions. Igor's sister was the one responsible for arranging Igor's egress from Vesperale, the gate town where he grew up. Why is it that she would do such a thing? There, of course, were some disappearances in Vesperale. And on your way, you definitely had an interesting experience. You encountered a lost Thunderbird in Crag Carrick, and you were struck by it twice, Igor. Corzon has unfortunately caught Illyria stealing, and so we're probably not going to get along too well. And then as we arrive here at the end of our sort of lingering questions, Igor wanted to talk to the headmistress about the Dear Diary pages and the symbols down in the catacombs, because you found all these collections of symbols down underneath in the tunnels. But you did not get a chance to do so, because that's when Illyria, sort of escorted, shall we say, by the school hunters, burst into the castle. So that's where we're at. Thank you so very much for joining me. This has been an excellent campaign thus far, and with all this action, I think it's time that we got in and had a moment to reflect on and dig a little deeper into some of these untied loose ends. Igor startles awake, having drifted perhaps not into sleep as much as into reverie. This dangerous bit of a ghost's life. Thinking about the past, thinking about the past 24 hours. The moons have dissolved into the sky as the sun begins to pierce the windows here in this secluded part of the castle. Igor, you stir and try to avoid the beams of sunlight that arc through this room. This room is pretty bright overall, and now that the sun has come up, that means the end of the day. You have tarried long here, by Illyria's side, and you look through the bars of this cage. All told, it's a fairly comfortable arrangement. There is a wrought iron door that could be swung shut, but currently it is open, and instead a wooden barrier keeps Illyria inside. Illyria has been unchained and allowed to roam this room. There is dirt on the floor, but underneath it, as Illyria quickly finds as they dig in a panic to try and escape. When these chains come off, immediately Illyria began barking and whining. Igor, I think this is probably hard for you to watch, knowing that Illyria is in there, not knowing what to do or how to react or why this is all happening. You hear an argument across this echoey space here as you start to stir from your slumber, from your reverie, and you look in through the wooden barrier and see that in this room, with just sort of a little cauldron of meat and bones that have been put into the corner for Illyria to munch on. You turn back and you see two people that you've come to know as Zed and Bella. Zed, of course, seems to be the head of the school hunters with a tooth-studded hat, very outback-looking hat. His grizzled black skin, it sort of bunches up around his eyes as he squints, and in this quiet argument with Bella, he just shakes his head and points to, well, you, to Illyria. It's hard to tell. He shakes his head and walks away. And Bella, the absolutely muscle-strapped orc woman, she puts her hands on her hips, shakes her own head for a moment, and then sidles on over to sit next to you, Igor. From here, you can see inside this little wooden barrier, Illyria is currently asleep, having worn themselves out, trying to escape, gnawing on these bones, howling out. How you doing, Igor? Feeling all right? Tough night. Real tough night. And I'm starting to pick up some things about the pattern here. I can actually tell by some of the fur markings. I'm anticipating that this is going to be close to the end of the transformation. This particular one's a quick one. Been watching the moons. Been hoping that Illyria's not getting too hurt down here, but... And Bella puts a hand on your shoulder, Igor, after a fashion. You can tell that the hand is there, but of course it doesn't make strong contact. Bella seems to ignore this. They are real lucky to have somebody like you. Igor, this is important, what you're doing here. It might not feel like it, and... Well, I know for me, it's easy to fall into a trap, thinking that this sitting vigil, this waiting, just being here. It's easy to think that it's doing nothing, especially when there's so much trouble to be caused by some poor thing growing fangs and rushing off into the woods. Bella looks a little sad at Illyria. There's a lot of trouble there, and much in the same way that I'm sure you yourself are finding that This is not an easy transition. You're not here because your life got easier here at the castle. Well, it's the same for little old Illyria here. They're going to be able to learn about it, certainly. They're going to know more about this. They're going to be able to control those instincts that, well, treated you so bad. She sort of grabs onto your wrist gently and sort of pulls it up where your arm is, it's mostly healed, but these fingers, the pinky and the ring finger on your hand are still a little wispy, still a little feathered. Got some powerful jaws on this one. Illyria's gonna be all right. We're gonna make sure of it. And Bella sits here quietly with you. She seems to check over her shoulder back to that alcove where she and Zed were having this argument a moment ago.
How much do you know about Illyria's condition? Have you known a werewolf before?
Oh, hon. Yeah, I have. She looks over her shoulder one last time at that little alcove where she and Zed were arguing a moment ago and says, yeah, Igor, I'm actually, it's part of my job to look after the lycan here at school. It's one of the reasons I train so hard, and part of the reason why it's a little easier for me to get on with them. As a werewolf, Illyria's gonna get yanked around. It ain't fair. No more than it's fair that you're dead. But these instincts, they can be molded. They can be whittled down to something a bit more useful. It's gonna be difficult. You see, somewhere inside Illyria right now, there is a battle between legacies. I don't know much about the grand fable, but Headmistress talks to us about it, and I know that factors in pretty heavy. Illyria's life might have been meant for one thing, but now they've sort of been stagecoach robbed, and now those reins aren't entirely in their hands anymore. They've been connected, sort of inducted, yanked in by some other legacy, this legacy of their bloodline. It's actually going to be similar for you. You have got some reason that you're still here. You're going to have something in common with some other ghosts like that. They're going to have some similar reason they're still here. I don't know much about it. You'd have to ask. Well, you'll learn about it. But for Illyria, Illyria is now part of some bloodline. We're going to figure out which one, assuming it's one of the major ones, but, I've got my suspicions. Igor, you think for a moment back to what Chu said. Chu seems to indicate that there was indeed a specific bloodline that Illyria had been inducted into. You don't know much about Duskin in general. You know a little bit more about ghosts, and you're starting to learn about werewolves and other lycan, but it didn't make a ton of sense to you, and yet Chu did say, "Welcome Illyria to the pack for me," and mentioned the eternal hunger. Bella continues, as Illyria stirs a little bit in this sort of, it's a cage at the end of the day. It's been made as comfortable as possible, but it is a cage. Illyria stirs, and Bella stops for a moment, sniffs the air. Seems to have some almost instinctive qualities of her own. She sort of crouch walks over to the cage and looks inside. Quietly talks over her shoulder at you.
Each group of lycan have got some bloodline they're connected to. When a wolf bites somebody, they're gonna become a wolf. When a bear bites somebody, they're gonna become a bear. Not just any wolf, not just any bear, of course, lycan, but it's drawing blood, and it's that blood, a little bit like vampires, it's that blood that carries this new connection to a new legacy. Illyria is part of something bigger than themselves, which is hard. I think people talk about being part of something greater than yourself, and it always sounds so grand. But no, it's tough, especially when you didn't choose to be there. Based on the moons right now, we know a couple of the local groups, the local, werewolf groups, and assuming it was a local werewolf what bit him, we might have this tracked down pretty quick. And once we know that, it's going to be some good news, actually, because we can start to predict when these fits are going to hit. We can start to help Illyria to understand some of the new instincts that are going to be coming up with this, some of these challenges that Illyria is going to have to face. Of course, as a werewolf, I can guess a few off the top of my head. Illyria's sense of smell is going to get a lot better. Going to be able to understand some of the howling, some of the patterns left by creatures out in the forest. These things are nice, but at the same time, there might be some viciousness, hunger, could be anything.
What is the eternal hunger?
Bella turns and sort of chews on her lip with one of these big tusks that comes out from her lower lip.
Eternal hunger.
She nods, kind of sadly. Gonna make a heart roll for you here real quick. You blew it out of the water.
Well, Igor, where'd you hear that? Yeah. Yep, that is how it's looking right now. I don't try to call them too early, but it's one of the biggest lycan groups in the area. Certainly one of the more aggressive ones, and we already know they've been singing out in the woods nearby the castle. They don't usually stray this far south, but yeah, I think it's safe to say that Igor, your friend here, is now part of the Pack of the Eternal Hunger.
Igor, Bella starts to sort of scratch something in the stone, just using sort of idly sort of a piece of slate, just sort of scratching a symbol in the stone here. And it is a symbol, it looks like a large U shape, kind of a horseshoe shape with spikes or teeth or something that point inside of the curve of this horseshoe. You've seen this before.
Pack of the Eternal Hunger is one of the largest lycan crews, at least close to the towers. Lots of running around, lots of werewolves, werebears, some foxes, a few corvids even, but this is it's a rough and tumble group. We've had our share of headbutting with this crew. It is a pack, and they operate through most of this territory. We actually are right here on the edge of a couple of different Duskin groups. I'm sure you're going to find out more about it, but we're sort of on a line, north and south. South side of the line, mostly vampires. You have to talk to somebody else about that, but north of the line, that's lycan territory. And closest one is the Pack of the Eternal Hunger. It's named that way for a reason, and you're going to find Illyria's going to wake up with an appetite. Plenty of times this is pretty literal. Just keep Illyria stocked up well with some, there's quite a few elk in the area, some deer, some smaller game as well. And that might take care of it, but it could be hunger for something else. It's hard to tell for sure. Igor,
as Illyria starts to stir inside the cage, starts to wake up, and you hear kind of a whine, some sort of morning sneezes. Bella says,
Igor, it ain't gonna be easy for Illyria, and it ain't gonna be easy for you. But I want you to know that I'm gonna do everything I can. This pack,
and she sort of, runs her thumb over this completed sketch of this U shape with the spikes inside of it. This Pack of the Eternal Hunger kind of symbol that she's sketched.
I'm gonna do everything I can. You just make sure that when Illyria starts to feel that hunger, you talk to somebody that you trust. All right, I hope that can be me. But of course there is Brisley.
We know Brisley. Brisley is a wereboar and a beak here at the castle. There are some other were creatures as well, some other lycan. Corzon is an upperclassman and also a lycan.
Good luck. Good luck, Igor. Hopefully you won't need too much of it, and, well, that's why I'm here. Looks like Illyria's polished off some of those steaks. I'm gonna head back up and grab some more.
Bella stands and starts to depart, and Illyria, having sort of just woken up, lashes out and bites at the grate, bites at this little wooden barrier just where Bella's fingers were a moment before.
So, did I get bit by a ghost?
No, Igor, you didn't get bit by a ghost. You got bit by something worse. I try not to cast aspersions, but, well, I think in the case of murder, it's probably fine, isn't it? Whoever did this to Illyria, maybe they had malicious intent. Maybe they were just as wild as Illyria themselves was most of tonight. But you were killed. So, no, if you get bit by a ghost, well, you just said the wrong thing. Maybe it won't hurt too much, but maybe it will, I don't know. Not being a ghost myself and all.
Bella wanders off for more food for Illyria, sort of mumbling and giggling lightly about being bit by a ghost.
What do you suppose that would feel like?
And Igor, you are alone with Illyria once more. Illyria looks out and sort of like growls, but you see as Illyria sort of sniffs and Bella's scent starts to depart, you know you're probably not emitting much of a scent right now. And so when Illyria is sort of sniffing the air in between some of the panels of this wood barrier, Illyria doesn't smell you as much as spots you with their weaker wolf eyes, and then stops growling. Huffs at you, and then starts to pace up and down inside the inside this cell here. Igor, you wait. You can feel the stress just pouring off of Illyria's spirit, Illyria's aura here, trying to make the best of the situation. You learn what you can from Bella. Lots of times, you manage to, get little details about what possibly might be coming next. Helping to feed them, making sure that Illyria is well stocked. And over the course of the day, which is of course when people are resting here, you're flipped on these day and night cycles. Over the course of the day, a heavy snowstorm sets in. It had been cold and powdery when you went down to Dawngreet, but now over the course of the next, I would say, about 48 hours, it's been a day or two as you wait with Illyria. You find yourself pretty well snowed in here. It starts to blur the lines a bit between day and night. Night when you are most active, so it's hard to tell precisely what time it is outside. The grayness starts to become a bit oppressive. The light coming in through the windows, it certainly doesn't burn like it would otherwise, but it also, it starts to get to you after a bit, because of course it blocks out the moonlight as well. This furious blizzard in the midst of this winter storm, and over time, Illyria begins to transform back. It's a tough transformation, certainly tough to watch, and you know that Illyria, it's not comfortable. It's not painful per se, but there's a lot of groaning and complaining about it. Illyria, over the course of a couple of hours, makes this transformation, and Bella is there sort of mumbling to herself about the various stages of it. Bella manages to get Illyria sort of back on their feet, has a change of clothes ready for Illyria, and starts to kind of instruct Illyria about what's happening next. But it sounds like the most important instruction is for this first transformation. Rest is important.
Welcome back to the world, Illyria. It's sun's just starting to rise, I think.
We can hear the wind rushing through the hallways, and Bella just shakes her head.
I mean, I think the sun's coming up, but regardless, it is going to be some time for you to get some rest. It's exhausting, your first transformation, and you're going to need time to sort of recover from it. Now, I'm hoping that you've had a chance to learn something here. Headmistress Francesca wants me to impress this upon you, and the thing is, she's absolutely right. Illyria, you're not responsible for what happened to you. As sad as it is, you are responsible for what happens next. You're going to have these attacks here, these moments where you get seized by these instincts. And it's not just going to be while you're in this wolf form. Strong, by the way.
And Bella sort of like rubs her arm where she's got a bandage applied from where Illyria got in a good chomp.
you're you're going to feel some of these things a lot of the time, and when you get struck by these, it's going to help you out in certain ways, and it's going to be a real distraction too. It might be so distracting that you start to think about doing some things you wouldn't otherwise think about doing, and we're going to train you, all right? We are. We're going to get to how. But let's start here with the why. And the why is so that you don't cause all this trouble like you did recent. You and Igor made I'm going to call it a challenging decision. It ain't really up to me to pass any judgment on that. I'm sure that'll be coming your way soon enough. But just know that, I'm not so concerned about you missing classes or what have you, but you snuck out when you weren't ready, when you didn't know enough about what the two of you are going to be like, how you're going to react to things. You can't go out into the world ignorant. You go out smart, you're going to come back okay. You and your friends.
Illyria tries to speak and realizes their voice hasn't been of much use for the past couple of days, and as such, it's a little rusty.
Did they hurt anyone? Well, not too bad.
And Bella sort of winks at Igor. Illyria turns to Igor and says,
No, it's like a bad dream in there. I thought I might have gotten you. That's not what I wanted. I was afraid. So much shouting and movement, and everything smells fantastic and terrible, and... I'm sorry, Igor. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Bella. We had these... The wild stallions...
And Bella just sort of holds up a hand and waves this conversation off and says,
I talked to Madame Francesca about it. I understand. Sometimes you get put in a bit of a spot. This ain't about that. I know, Igor, you've had a conversation with Madame Francesca already. What this is about is just knowing about yourself. Igor, you've been practicing your mindfulness now for a bit. You're starting to understand a bit about how ghosts work. It's not too far off from that for lycan. You're going to be seized by all sorts of cravens. But you're going to come up, and again, as much as it ain't your fault, you're going to have to learn how to manage with it. It ain't fair, but it is the way it is. I like to call it taking the punches. Of course, for you, maybe taking the bites, taking those big old paw smacks, but no, you got to take the punches sometimes. Got to stay standing. And you're going to best do that by being aware of yourself. We'll talk about it.
Illyria, there's nothing to be sorry for. We'll both do better. Deal?
Yes, deal, of course. Yes, absolutely.
I'm going to see if Illyria really was able to internalize some of this stuff. Illyria seems a little distracted. They look at their hands, sort of as the nails are just starting to retreat back and become more standard fingernails. Sort of the last vestiges of this. The fangs have already disappeared, receded back, but the fingernails, these sort of wolf claws, are just the last vestiges of what happened. And Illyria is still sort of looking at their hands with a sense of a little bit of fear, a little bit of wonder in their eyes. And Bella walks off.
All right, I gotta go get a broom. Gotta sweep out this one for the next one that goes wild. But you get some rest, Illyria.
And the two of us wander up into the rest of the castle.
Igor, it has been a wild few days. I feel like I can hear the moons moving through the sky. But that doesn't make much sense because it's day right now. I don't know. Igor, it was a rush. Igor. It was incredible. I'm afraid of what I can do, but I think if I can turn this into something good, I could turn it into something great. I understood so much more. Anytime I entered a room, I could feel the people that were there, the people who had been there, and some of what they were feeling even.
Yes, I bet that it was. The box is kind of...
The box! Oh, where... did we manage to get it to Garrison? Probably...
It's in the castle.
It's in the castle. Did Bella bring it back here with us?
No. I was able to get it back here myself.
You were able to get... How did you carry it? You're a ghost. Igor. Oh, Igor.
Illyria looks a little sheepish for a moment. Ha ha ha. Ironic. I don't know. Illyria looks a little sheepish and throws a big hug your way. They wrap their arms around you, Igor, and it feels strange, but frankly, of any of the sort of like physical contact that you've made with any mortal person so far, any non-ghost, it sort of feels the most normal. It's probably sort of the familiarity that the two of us share, and Illyria throws this big hug around you, and you know, Illyria is sizable. It's a good hug, frankly. Illyria is good with the hugs. And Illyria says,
I can't thank you enough. I picked up some of what happened. I remember some things. Bella said that my memory is going to improve. They're going to help me so that I stay myself, even when I change. But I remember this was not an easy time for you either. I'm gonna learn to be better. And I'm gonna get good at this. I think it could be interesting at the very least, but truly, Igor, I'm sorry for what happened to you. I know you don't blame me for it, but it's important for me to learn. I'm so thankful to have you. This box. Is it nearby somewhere? Can we take a look at where it might be?
Well, it's in the castle after a fashion.
And what do you mean by that?
It's in a wall.
It's in the wall. Okay. All right. Well, it's close by at least. Is it safe?
Yes, it's safe.
Okay. Well, if the wild stallions do show up, then we can pass it off then. Hey, we completed our mission. We did it. And it's a good thing too.
As the two of us walk past some of the windows here in these, sort of as we pass through the upper halls of this place, we sort of skip the sunlight, or at least Igor does. Illyria doesn't really have to. Illyria can maintain exposure to the sunlight just fine. But Illyria sort of skips with you past the beams of sunlight coming through.
Wonder what's in that box. I don't know. But I do know when the wild stallions come back, we are going to be ready for them. Mission accomplished.
They smile, and down at the other end of the hallway, we can see Chew and the gang approaching. Illyria says,
Oh, no. I just don't want to deal with her right now. Can we go? Can we try to leave? Let's get off this way.
We manage a weak success here, and as we walk through the hallway, we duck into a little alcove. We are suddenly as just buried into the brickwork here, we suddenly find what looks to be a torch that has been ripped off of the wall, wielded by one of the many haunted suits of armor here. Illyria leans back and kicks out one of its legs from underneath it, and says,
Shove off, Rattlecan.
The suit of armor just sort of flops to the floor, all gangly, and starts to crawl after the leg. Sort of grabs onto it, and although the suits of armor are entirely empty, they are haunted as hell. And it just sits there on the floor like its rusty helmet creaking back and forth between the leg of armor, like the shin guard and such, and then the torch that they were carrying, seemingly trying to make a dim-witted decision about what to do next. Through the clatter, Illyria and Igor duck off into a classroom, and in here we find ourselves surrounded by what appear to be coffins, big, heavy stone things, almost sarcophagus, and most of them are open and empty. They, in fact, appear to be very clean. There are also these large open crates of what just simply seem to be dirt, dark black soil. And it is, very neatly put up in these crates here, but it smells dark. And Illyria says,
Well, this is not ideal. I just have to wait for them to pass.
We hear their footsteps approaching, and laughter among these lycan students. A lot of them are, giggling, and some of them even howl with laughter. Igor looks around a little concerned and says,
Can we be in here, do you think?
I don't know, just for a moment. Keep that door closed.
And as Chew's crew sidles on down the hallway past this doorway, Chew calls out loudly,
Come on, Wolfie! Woo, woo.
And you hear behind you, Igor, Illyria just sort of like almost silently growls just a little bit.
I heard you had your first transformation, and truly, Illyria, I want to welcome you. I hope Igor passed along my message. If he didn't, he's gonna be in trouble, isn't he? Illyria, you are most welcome, and I just want you to know, maybe we didn't get off on the right foot, but you and I here, we can do a lot of good together. You are, well, you're fierce. My first transformation, I certainly couldn't have taken on a ghost and Dungreet Town Guard. Certainly not the whole garrison. Much less come back from death. You got stabbed up pretty good by a couple of Luca Brusca hunters.
You hear some whispering outside the door as Chew's voice drops, and you hear people walk off in both directions. Chew drops her voice a little quieter and says,
Most of the beaks around here are going to teach you that revenge should stay off the table. Question is, why is it we gotta hide here? Why is it we need a whole school dedicated just to keeping us secret, keeping us out of sight, out of mind?
Out in the hallway, we can hear Chu is sort of pacing very slowly up and down this hallway. Not bothering to open the doors, but simply scratching the wall and across the doors that she passes as she goes, including ours at a few sort of boots shaking moments. Chu says,
if we want to survive in this world, maybe a bit of revenge is in order. Certainly to clear up that out of order shit that we get outside of the castle.
she comes to a halt here in the middle of the hallway and says,
that's the sort of shit you're going to be taking for the rest of your life. Everybody who knows. Not just Luca Bruskin either. No, at the moment somebody sees your fingernails get a bit too long, or the hair on the back of your neck stand a bit too tall, Illyria, you're going to get hunted. You're going to be reviled. But there's a family waiting for you. All you got to do is join up.
Chu lets out a little bark, and this group wanders off down the hallway.
Igor, she's not going to leave me alone, is she? She said you had a message for me. What's that about?
Illyria pokes their head out into the hallway, and upon seeing that Chu has made her departure with the rest of the Chu crew, the two of us sort of hop back out into the hallway and continue on toward the bunk room. As we go, we catch sight of Corzon up in the distance, and Illyria says,
"Great, another person I have to hide from."
Nope. The moment Corzon catches sight of us with our miss here, Corzon starts to sort of march down toward us with an angry look on his face. He's got his ever-present cap on over his sizable hair, which as a lycan might not all be hair. Who knows what he's got going on up there? We don't know exactly what sort of lycan he is, but over the top of his head, he's got this big old hat, and he says, "Illyria, well, it's good to see you again, at least in one piece. You are not going to be participating in the expeditioneering program anytime soon. All right? After finding out that you intended to steal those supplies for your expedition into Dawnreach, you are giving a bad name to all of us. All right? This adventure that you intend to have, you're not going to bring this kind of scrutiny on the rest of us. All right? I cannot have you as part of the program." Illyria tries to protest, but they say,
"I'm so sorry. We had someone that wanted us to..."
"It does not matter. Listen, the two of you are going to understand this at some point. We here are not going to be able to leave anyone behind. All right? So when you go out into Dawnreach, we're not just going to let you flap in the wind. All right? You are going to get your help, but that means every time we do that, we are more exposed."
"Well, I didn't see you out there."
"No, I was not part of the Four World Party. The upperclassmen are responsible for maintaining the castle grounds while the others go away. Because, of course, every time someone comes to rescue a silly little werewolf down in Dunreed, the more that we have risked the exposure to the whole castle. Every time you do something like this, there is a chance that someone is going to follow us back. We already know that you are being hunted. You cannot be this stupid. Alright? You're good to be smart. So at least for the next month, you are not going to be part of expeditionary, not in the least.
But don't be a bastard about this. Alright? I had a job, it was the last thing I had to do, and now I'm done with it.
It does not matter. You think that I did not come here with baggage? You think that I came here with a clean slate? None of us come here with clean slates. Not a single one. In fact, and he sort of like pauses for a moment, a little confused, and looks, sort of turns and looks over Illyria's shoulder down the hallway, and Illyria looks back as well. And down there at the other end, we can see Chu's crew has sort of come back into this hallway and is just sort of hanging around. Most of them look a little embarrassed almost to be there, and yet there is Chu sort of looking down the hallway, just sort of trying to look casual, leaning against the wall, but looking down there nonetheless. And when the two of us sort of turn back and spot her, she quickly sort of, chucks some of her snack into her mouth, whatever she's munching on, and turns casually away, and they wander back off down the hallway. Corzon mutters, "No one comes here without baggage." Illyria, you play it smarter next time. Alright? We leave no one behind, but that means every one of us could be a weak link at any moment. Don't let it be you. Not again. And Corzon wanders off, pulling this cart of what looks like expeditionary equipment, looks like climbing stuff specifically, and wanders away. Illyria turns, looks like they're about to sort of holler after him, but instead they bite down their lip and turn back, and we continue to march off toward our bunk room. We reach the bunk room and head out onto the patio where the snow is absolutely caking the place. The the doors blow open when we open them, and Illyria steps outside for just a moment before they decide,
You know what? It's actually too absolutely freezing out here. Let's just find a quiet corner, I think.
And shuts the door quickly. Instead, we sidle on over to our bunks, where we see a couple of familiar faces. There is a boy in a wheelchair that we have seen a couple of times before, that Igor has made particular note of. And then, of course, Penelli is currently sitting on her bed, sitting on her bunk here, and appears to be sort of running through some tricks on a sort of like a string mechanism. It's a little bit reminiscent of a yo-yo, except there are multiple sort of spinners involved. It's hard to tell precisely what it is, but she's quite good. And just sort of, running through the tricks here. Illyria sits heavily onto their bed and says,
I think I could sleep through an entire winter storm. Do you think that would be hibernating? Am I trying to hibernate? Is that what's happening to me? I'll have to ask Bella. I don't know. Well, so, Igor, tell me about this message that Chu was supposed to have for me. I'm assuming it's something along the lines of,
Oh, let's go run around in the forest together.
yes?
Actually, she wanted me to welcome you to the eternal hunger.
Eternal hunger? What's that? What?
And just at that very moment, Illyria's stomach growls a little bit.
Unrelated, I'm sure. I'm always hungry anyway. That's always been the case. I've always been big for my age, and so I have to eat. Nothing strange about that. Nothing even particularly Tuscan about that.
Stomach growls again.
I just didn't get enough to eat while I was in that cage. Ugh.
As Illyria smacks their belly to indicate, to highlight the hunger. They don't have the best aim, and they accidentally smack one of the bandages that is currently around their torso. And they say,
Oh. The Lucabroska hunters definitely did a number on me.
they reach up and feel behind their ear where the other bandage currently is.
I almost didn't make it, Igor. And in fact,
And Illyria suddenly gets kind of a 1,000-yard stare, as if remembering something. Illyria leans in toward you and says,
I just remembered. Igor. I met Death. Did you meet Death when you died, when you should have crossed over? Igor, I think I died. I'm not a ghost. I don't think. No, I'm not a ghost. Igor, I have something. I've got something I have to do. I have to find someone. I have to find someone, and I have to protect them. I don't know from what. I don't know who it is. Doesn't seem like a great recipe for success, does it?
Illyria's stomach rumbles again.
Well, why don't you go get something to eat and go to sleep? I'll leave you be so that you can rest if you would like.
Absolutely not. I have always felt better to have you watching over me when I sleep, and I've always felt better about when you're sleeping, when I've got the chance to watch over you. Come on. We're a team. I don't want you going. We probably need to go to some classes, don't we?
And I think Igor and Illyria have some time to sort of chill out here. I think sort of like catching a glimpse of Igor peeking over toward Pinelli. Illyria says,
Yes, all right. Just don't stray too far, okay?
Illyria puts out a hand and grabs onto yours, Igor, and says,
I think I got a pretty good bite out of you, didn't I? I know you don't blame me like that, but I said sorry, and I want to make sure that I also say thank you. You didn't leave. I think there are plenty of people who would have just run off when I first started to, grow fangs, howl outside of the largest garrison this close to the towers. You didn't go anywhere. Thank you, Igor. All right. Oh, I am exhausted, and I am terribly sore, and I'm going to sleep.
Yes, it was an exciting night. You're welcome.
Hmm.
You notice that Illyria has, even in their human form, taken up snoring. And you think to yourself, well, this doesn't bode well for stealthy camping trips these days, but that's an issue for another time. You head on over and you get into a discussion with Penelli. Penelli sits on the edge of her bed, working on this little trick that she's been doing. You watch as these colorful wooden spheres with little grooves carved into them, they seem to dance and bounce across this string almost like acrobats. It looks like a little miniature circus almost, and Penelli doesn't look up when you arrive, but does smile and says,
Hi there. Good to see you. I hear that you had quite an interesting night the other night. Is that right? Yeah, I actually heard a few interesting things, including that you got a big old chomp taken out of your hand. That sounds exciting. Fortunately, it doesn't seem like that meant you too much harm because, well, listen, you would know better than I do, but I heard that Illyria, as a wolf, is an absolute monster. Actually, you know, that probably doesn't seem like the right way to word that. I just mean to say, fearsome. Am I right about that? Seems like Illyria could be formidable.
She continues to do this little this trick as you watch these sort of spheres do this acrobatic dance up and down across these things. This string is woven between her fingers in sort of a cat's cradle-ish sort of thing, and she twitches her fingers sort of almost seemingly at random, but as you watch, they are at the perfect moments to take these balls and launch them back up into the air. It's like watching a juggler almost, as these balls just sort of leap up into the air and spin along these strings, rush back and forth, and then drop down in a low arc, and then come sailing back up over her head. Igor says,
Yes, I did. She can be. Yes, I did. They can be. They can be quite formidable. That looks interesting. What are you doing there?
Well, just a little trick from back in the day. It's hard for me to find things that I can really juggle, but I brought these with me.
You get a closer look, Igor, and you can see that these little wooden balls have sort of chips in the paint, and they appear to be quite old. They look like they might have been sitting around for years. And Penelli says,
Yeah, a little piece of home.
with a sudden flare, Penelli launches all three of them quickly downward and then slings all of them upward, and they fall down sort of at random around her, and she just smiles as they plunk down onto the bed and onto the floor. It's funny to look at, and she giggles a little bit to herself and says,
That's my big finish. It always seemed like that one got more applause than, finishing up in some real fancy way. I think it reminds people that it's all supposed to be fun.
That is pretty cool. Do you think you might be able to teach me how to do that?
I'm actually curious to see you try.
her brow creases a little bit, and she hands you this string. It appears to be sort of knotted and twisted in certain places, woven from some pretty stiff cord, and you sort of try to twist it between your fingers as she instructs you, and it makes absolutely no sense. Not just the organization of it, but as you try to hold it, it's string. If you were going to try to use something to pass through a ghost, you would probably, like, string would be a great first bet. And as you try to hold this between your fingers, you find that it is really very difficult. I'll let you make a roll for it though. Some edge here. Absolutely not. With a horrible miss. This stuff simply slips between your fingers. Through your fingers, in fact. You are just not able to hold onto this string. And Penelli just shakes her head and says,
Yeah, that's sort of what I figured. I think it'll be the same way if I use those alchemy supplies that I've seen you squirreling away in your little satchel there. You know, I think I can still do this because it came with me. You know?
She looks up at the windows as the storm absolutely rages outside. It is a snowstorm, so there's no thunder, but the wind is horrendous, and the snow coming from the sky is so thick you can hear it impacting the windows as the wind blows in all different directions. It started to collect up on not only the windowsill, but up on the individual sort of lead lines that run through the windows, to the point where the entire window is nearly impenetrable. And she's got these little these long braids, 2 of them, off the back of her head, and her freckles seem to glow a little bit, with a slightly more, not red, but a little bit orange, just a touch, just a tiny bit, different than the rest of her sort of like roughly blue. You know, it's a pretty standard color for a ghost to be, roughly blue. And not only that, but her hair also gives off this very faint orange tinge to it. She says,
Seems to me like when you got something that was important to you, it's a little bit easier to interact with. These were part of my act. I had this, and well, I'm actually curious because, Igor, there's something else I used to do, but I'm not sure it's going to work on you.
Penelli grabs your hand, and this is a hand that on your palm, you've got the regular lines of your palm. They're still there even as a ghost, but in addition, this particular palm of yours has got scars running through it. They sort of cut through and zigzag to the point where they almost become indecipherable from the pattern of the creases in your palms. And she says,
I had a few other tricks I could do as well. Let me take a look here.
She scrutinizes your palm, Igor, and as she does so, you can feel the aura on her is a little bit stronger. It sort of hums, it swells almost, and it's very subtle. You don't get a sudden, rush of power or anything, but she's tapped in. As Penelli holds one of Igor's hands with both of hers, he says,
What was this other act of yours?
Well, if I get enough peace and quiet, I might be able to tell you something about what's coming next for you. It's interesting. See, you... your fate is a little different. I mean, that's what they're teaching us, right? our fate is going to be different. Our legacy has changed. We're connected to something else now. Okay, sure, interesting. But you've got these lightning scars running through here. And that's a story I wouldn't mind hearing. I saw you after your first travails, and it seems like you might have remembered something about why you got these. I don't think it would be a boring story. I wouldn't mind hearing it. But that's from your past, and I think everybody's past talks to their future. And I think yours is saying something. I'm seeing something here, a school event, some sort. I'm seeing, it's at the arena. Yeah, out in the back. Not the one in the towers, but I'm seeing the school arena. I see a ghost. I see, can't tell who it is, but I see you, Igor. And I see a new nemesis appearing. I don't know, it doesn't seem like it's going to be a big deal, but I see instinct. I see clashes of loyalty.
She smiles up at you and says,
You know, I think it's going to be an interesting week for you, Igor.
she runs a finger along the palm here where you've got these lightning scars. And Igor says,
I actually got these on my way here.
On your way here. You're from somewhere inside the towers, aren't you?
Well, close. I'm from Vesperale.
Gate Town, I gotcha. Okay, so you got struck by lightning in the towers.
No. I was smuggled out.
she raises her eyebrows at you and looks interested. She continues to sort of like poke and sort of like walk her fingers along the lightning scars, almost sort of like seeming to measure them, and continues to listen. Igor says,
Craig Carrick.
and at this, she looks up at you, surprised.
You got smuggled through Craig Carrick?
Yes. And while we were there, our guide got a little distracted. We were waylaid by a Thunderbird.
A Thunderbird? What's a Thunderbird doing up in the mountains? Are you sure?
Oh, yes. Yes, I'm quite sure.
And the two of you make eye contact where she stares intently into the eye of yours, Igor, that has had the iris sort of shattered into shards.
Yes, I'm quite sure. I was struck twice. I very nearly died.
Well, yeah, I should have think you would have very nearly died if you got struck once. Well, that's a bit more exciting than my story out here. Oh, boy. Well, did you feel any different after?
I don't know. It's hard to remember anything that happened on the entire trip. And then I got out here and I met Illyria, and we've been traveling together, and I had some things I had to do. I got distracted, but after the travails, yes, I do feel different.
You look different. These scars, I didn't really notice them before, but I notice them now.
And she just sort of like with her brow furrowed, looking, she looks genuinely interested in sort of the pattern of these scars, as she sort of like can see them go up your neck and onto your face and connect just barely with your eye. She says,
I almost wonder if I could read the whole thing like a trail map.
she sort of squints and looks at you with like an almost professional interest for a 12-year-old, and sort of slaps your hand and says,
But that'll cost you extra.
She stands up and starts to go around collecting these little wooden juggling balls, these little string juggling balls. Igor says,
Read what?
Well, your scars. See, I have a bit of a knack for, I guess, understanding what people's pasts are speaking into their futures. That's what I was doing looking at your palm there. I really do think you might want to be on the lookout. Somebody's going to be pretty unhappy with you here in, well, not very long. And I saw you down at the arena, the school arena.
she shrugs.
Usually can't tell precisely what it means, but I might be able to dig deeper. But
She winks at you.
that also costs extra. But I might be able to read your whole scar pattern. I mean, it speaks in some of the same ways as, the creases on anyone's palm. Could be interesting. I don't think I can map out your whole future or anything, but, well, it's a big part of your past. Might be a big part of your future, too. Who knows?
She manages to collect all these balls now and throws them back onto the string and starts to bounce them back and forth. Going back to her trick here. This is not a trick that you can do, Igor. Unfortunately, you simply don't have the physical element. Yeah, you don't have the physical fortitude required to handle something like this, at least for right now.
What do you think that sort of reading would cost me?
Oh, either some favors, but I don't really need any favors right now. So probably just coin, straight up and down.
She grins at you, making quick eye contact in between, watching these balls as they juggle in the air.
Maybe you want to wait and see if it turns out first. After all, if you come away from the arena next time with a new best friend, well, you're probably going to be wanting your money back if I charge you anything now, huh?
I think meanwhile, Illyria, in their fitful sleep, gets a full day's rest. And with the two of us, as a matter of fact, I think the two of us both have got an opportunity to heal up here. If you share a bond, add +1. And at this point, I think we do share a bond with this place, right? That seems to make sense to me. Let's both forge a bond here. A strong hit. And then we have got Igor as well. Igor, this is for you. This is going to be +heart. Unfortunately, that is a miss, my friend. It's not fair, Igor, but I think all of the attention that Illyria's been getting has sort of distracted from you. You, I think, Igor, you've been quite stressed here. You find yourself trying to process the many difficult experiences that you've had since being here. And you have, of course, you didn't die like Illyria did. You had your time. You died before. But now, Igor, you're trying to put all these things together and you don't let it show much, and maybe that's part of it. Igor, you've been through as much as Illyria has, and Illyria seems to wear that on their sleeve a little bit more, but Igor, you keep it pretty well buttoned up, and so for you, this stress is gonna hit. You are, you've done what you could to try and help Illyria out, but you are suffering from your limitations as a ghost just as much as Illyria has, suffered the consequences of being a lycan. And yeah, Illyria is newer to it than you are to this ghost thing, but you also don't know everything there is to know about being a ghost. It's hard to know something about yourself, but not really know about it, not know details. You just have this label to put on it, which is good. I mean, it's better than being a ghost, but not realizing what's happened to you. But it's still hard to learn your way through. Okay, now we're going to Sojourn. Igor, you maintain a vigil over Illyria as Illyria rests and recuperates, and you find that through the administrations of various teachers, the beaks come in and, will occasionally throw on a salve onto a wound or cast a spell or two, and you find that Illyria heals up rather quickly. But in this time, Igor, as you find yourself watching over Illyria, you find yourself stressed. You're stressed, and this is not a stress that you tend to talk about with anyone, including Illyria. You keep it pretty well bottled up, Igor. At least you have so far. And as you do so, you can feel it taking its toll. You feel your thoughts become less organized, and as they do become less organized, you can feel yourself slipping a bit. You feel yourself, when you project into the mortal world, you can't project as thoroughly, and you can feel that dark cave behind you creeping up around. So much to think about, so many distractions. The idea of a new nemesis on the way is not particularly exciting. Ghosts, clashes of instinct and loyalty. She smiled when she said it, but Pinelli really gave you some tough news to deal with. And this is how we find ourselves going into our first major classes. Igor and Illyria are watched at nearly all times. Is it fair? Probably. Yes, we did, after all, choose to sneak off into the rest of the into the surrounding area, and we got ourselves in maybe the most trouble that one can possibly get into. There were fights. There was a battle in Dawncrete, and it was a battle to retrieve the two of us. Most especially Illyria. But it was our decision together, certainly, to go down into Dawncrete. I was just the one who happened to go mad. You certainly did your part to try and mediate the situation, but that doesn't seem to alleviate the suspicion that is now thrown our way. As of our departure from the castle, Illyria and Igor, the two of us have expended all of our social grace. When we walk past the beaks, they look at us suspiciously, and when we turn around a corner, we often turn back to find them watching us to see what we're up to next. We seem to have been labeled as troublemakers, perhaps, ones to watch. And, well, so far our track record says they're probably right. And so, over the course of these next couple of days, Illyria says to Igor,
Igor, the only way for me to make sure that what happened last time doesn't happen again, it's for me to learn about this, and I think it's going to be the same for you. The two of us have to pay more attention. We've got to start going to all of our classes. I'm going to dedicate myself to this, so that next time, when you try to lead me away from danger, I can follow and not bite your hand off. And, hopefully, I won't insist that we rush into danger ourselves. running off the dawn greet, middle of the night. Mission is complete. It's time to focus in.
And so, Illyria is dedicated now to heading to classes, and that, I think, is where we are going to find ourselves next. Illyria is pretty conflicted over the next few days, trying to best decide, if not expeditioneering, at least not for right now, how is Illyria going to dedicate themselves to being a better Duskin, learning more about what they can do and what they should try to avoid, how they should try to manage their instincts, how they should best prepare for those cycles of the moons wherein they're going to transform into a wolf. And after a lot of debate back and forth, you've noticed how Illyria does seem to be very curious about Chu and the Chu crew, just in general. Illyria certainly expresses that
there are so many pros and cons to both. I don't know if I want to deal with adults right now. I'm not gonna lie to you, Igor. I am absolutely embarrassed by what happened. I don't know how they're going to look at me right now, but then again, they have got so much experience. Bella seems so knowledgeable about it. From everything you told me that you talked about while I was transformed, and I don't know. But then Chu, of course, Chu is from the actual pack that I'm now a part of, even if I don't feel particularly connected to her. I am. I don't know.
the moment that solidifies it is as one day in the hall filled with round tables, and the long bar up at the front, which is covered in cuts of meat and the bits of fruit and berries. During breakfast at some point, as the sun sets, Illyria is sitting there at the table as you head off into your sort of meditation classes with your instructors. Tarua is leading the ghosts off for the evening. Igor says,
"You should do what you feel like you have to do."
I know, Igor, that's just the trouble. I don't know. I'll see you later. Well, I'll see you when the sun comes up. We've got a busy day in front of us.
And you see as Chu approaches Illyria, as the two of them are grabbing their meat off the counter. Chu very loudly says to Illyria,
"We're waiting for you. One of these days you're going to come around, Illyria. Come on. You and I, we're going to be pals. I just know it. Come join the pack, Illyria. Come on home."
And you, as you leave the room, Igor, see Illyria roll their eyes and turn on their heel and walk away from Chu. And Illyria heads off to seek out Bella and Brisley and Corzon, who, although they might not have good graces towards Illyria right now, Illyria is determined to learn all that they can about being a lycan and how best to mitigate this for next time. So, I'm going to swear that vow right now. The storm outside begins to abate, and as the snow piled up around the windows, it doesn't melt, but as the sky stops adding on to the pile, the windows are still stacked high with drifts of snow. The wind continues to blow outside, and we're pretty much snowed in. Outside, there is news that the arena is being cleared out as quickly as possible because, of course, there is that upcoming menagerie match. And there are other groups of students here who are excited about the athletic possibilities. But but they've been dampened by the snow. So there's a bit of a buzz. There's a lot of nervous energy, a lot of frenetic energy here in the castle as the athletics have been trapped inside, and the expeditioneering program has been forced to run through the hallways and practice their drills against the haunted suits of armor that walk along the hallways and try to grab weapons and attack beaks and students alike. The expeditioning students have gone on a bit of a quest throughout the castle, a campaign, a crusade almost, to dismantle every one of these haunted suits of armor. They will inevitably come back together, but they've made it a bit of a challenge for themselves to bust them all to pieces at one time in a coordinated campaign against them, overseen, of course, by Corzon and Brisley. Brisley, the beak, he is wandering the hallways and checking up on the students, passing marks down, as is his sort of assistant, Corzon. Corzon, I think, sees as Illyria tries to make a good impression, tries to show that they are ready to be trained, but no. Corzon has made his opinions clear. And Illyria, I think, doesn't want to cross Corzon. Corzon is clearly part of, while Corzon isn't a beak here, he is part of sort of the power structure, and as such, Illyria wants to bide their time, and they're going to wait for an opportunity to open up. Wait for the expeditionary program to accept them on good terms. Meanwhile, while they are doing this, Igor is pursuing magic. And I think as the two of us go our separate ways in the castle, we start to feel some of the pressures of drifting apart ever so slightly, and we make a concerted effort to get together at those times when we can. But of course, today is going to be a long day of being apart, because I am headed off to try and find someone, one of these people who is very knowledgeable about Duskin, and I'm going to impress them. It's the last thing I do. And of course, Igor is headed off to learn more about magic. Igor, you find yourself bristling with some of this lightning energy. It was much more significant while the storm was thrashing outside the castle, blowing snow, massive dunes of snow everywhere. And yet, you still feel the subtle hum of energy. It courses along one side of your body. It's a very asymmetrical and somewhat uncomfortable feeling, but it feels powerful. And you decide you are going to go and learn a little bit more about what you might be able to do with some of this energy. It's time for classes. Folks, another exciting day in Castle Vesperale. Marinver especially, I want to thank you for taking up the mantle of this, of Igor today. Not always easy to go it alone, but I appreciate that you have done so. Marinver, I think you've made some good calls today. We have got Igor and Illyria heading to classes. I want to make a note here that we're going to resupply our favor next week. Next week, we're going to see how well you and I are able to sort of get back in good graces. Because remember, this, we're sort of like, we're taking a bit of a different approach here with supply. And while we're inside the castle, supply doesn't mean supply, it means favor. And we're using that favor to try and, it will work in much the same way as supply would. If we need something, it's less about do we have it on our physical person and more, is it Beak willing to give it to us or to point us out toward the resources we need. And as such, we're going to try and resupply. We're going to do that at the beginning of next week. Instead of going too deeply into that right now, I think let's talk about our vows, our current quests. Let's see if there's any XP on the board, any new stuff going on. With a 4-star quest, Avenge Your Own Death. With a 1-star quest, Make a Good Impression on Pinelli. 3 stars, Pursue Academics, and 2 stars, The History of Duskin. Learn about the history of Duskin. I have stated, I'm going to try and be more generous about these things here. In the process of trying to avenge your own death, I don't think you made any progress today. Making a good impression on Pinelli, however, yes, I think you certainly have. I think you've made some progress there, which puts you at 9 out of 10, which is like prime territory to try and clear up, try and fulfill that vow. We can do that in just a moment if you wish. 3-star quest, Pursuing Academics, you're at 1 so far. I think this one, I'm going to hold off until you actually go to class. And then The History of Duskin, this is a 2-star quest, and I think you did learn a bit about it, which puts you at an 8 out of 10, which I would say is like 7 is sort of my minimum threshold for like feeling good about resolving one. Because remember, you're going to roll 2d10 here. And instead of rolling the dice, we're going to compare it against this progress track. So what I'm saying is you want to have as much of this progress filled in as possible to make you feel more comfortable about resolving it. But you could well resolve 2 quests right now, Igor, if you wish. Make a good impression on Pinelli and learn about the history of Duskin. Meanwhile, Illyria. Return to Brackwater, ready to settle down. I'm going to give myself another tick here because, yeah, it has been a wild ride so far. And I think every time I have something sort of like, every time I have an adventure that's a little bit too big for me, I'm going to go ahead and give myself XP. Study under a lycan mentor. Of course, I have not made any progress on that so far. Discover the truth of the underbrush. I don't think I've made any more progress toward that. Find out about my condition. Yeah, I've certainly done that. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and resolve that one right about now. And then pursue expeditioneering. I can't. Not allowed. Not allowed to yet. I still have to decide if I want to upgrade an asset or if I want to choose a new one. So, with that in mind, finding out about my condition, I'm gonna go ahead and yeah, Marinver, I think it makes sense. Let's do 1 and then a second one for you. So Igor, no, that makes no sense whatsoever. Let's get mine out of the way first here. Find out about my condition. So this one's for me. I'm going to fulfill my vow. Momentum is ignored. Here we go. Against a 4 and a 6, I have got a 9, and that is a strong hit. Yeah, baby. Okay. Fulfill my vow on a strong hit. Quest is complete. Mark experience. 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. So this is a 1. That's okay. So I've got 1 XP. That puts me at 3 total experience points, and I clear this, and I clear all the progress from it because I have completed my quest to learn about my condition. Now, I can always take that one again at a different level if I wish, because of course I've learned about my condition at the most basic level. Yeah, for right now, I think I've done the learning that I feel like I need to do. There we go. Okay, we're good. All right. Tally-ho. That's one off the board, and I've got the opportunity to choose a new asset if I wish, or I can upgrade one of my existing ones. I'm probably going to upgrade. Meanwhile, Igor, let's do some rolls. So this is your first one. To make a good impression on Pinelli, you've got a 9 out of 10. Let's see how you do. Impossible. That sucks so bad. Igor, I am so sorry. That is 2 10s. Let me go ahead and actually, as a matter of fact, it's going to be less. I'm going to take my webcam and just show you what happened here. So there is 2 zeros. That's a 10. There is a 0 that equals a 10. Igor, I'm so sorry. That sucks so bad. Literally, to get a weak hit, all you had to do was have one of those not end up being a 10. There was a 1% chance that you got a full miss on this. If I'm doing my math correctly, there was a 1% chance of that. We have to honor the dice. Fulfill your vow. On a miss, your quest is undone. Envision what happens. Ask the oracle if you're unsure, and choose one. You recommit, clear all but one filled progress, and raise the quest's rank by 1 if it's not already epic, or give up and forsake your vow. We'll have to ask Discord about which of those we choose, but we do have to decide about the pay the price here. So on a 55, it causes a delay, and it puts you at a disadvantage. Let me go ahead and write this one down because we're going to be talking about this next week. Penelli causes a delay or puts you at a disadvantage. Absolutely bonkers unfair. This Penelli thing has been so tough so far. What a wretched dice rolling session. Best on Discord, says Marinver. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, Marinver, you're doing an admirable job keeping up with this. That was so again, with a 1% chance of that going as poorly as it did, it made perfect sense for Igor to try and resolve that bond right now, or resolve that vow right now. It made perfect sense. There's a 1% chance that it went so terribly, and it absolutely did. Okay, yeah, we're gonna have to go and talk to Discord about whether Igor is going to give up on it or continue. Okay, this second one is about the history of Duskin against an 8. Again, this one also makes sense. Against a 5 and a 9, again, not great luck, but at least you are going to resolve this one. Learning about the history of Duskin on a weak hit, there's more to be done, or you realize the truth of your quest. Envision what you discover, then mark experience. You may swear an iron vow to set things right. If you do, add +1. Okay, so let's consult this again. 45. 45. A new danger or foe is revealed. We shall have to discover what this means next week. Good grief. What a hellacious day on the dice for Igor. Absolutely wretched. Now this was a 2-star, so I think you're going to, on a partial success, let's say it is a weak hit, so you're going to get 1 XP from it. Yeah, the dice are not a fan of you today. However, you have got 2 XP. It costs 2 XP to level up one of your assets. So if you wish, you can do that, and that will spend your XP, or you can wait for 3 and try to get a new one. I'm going to suggest you go ahead and level up one of the ones you've got, but we will talk about that in Discord. If you all would like to find out more about this campaign, go ahead and use the play command. That is going to bring up the bit.ly link that brings you over to the Google Drive for this campaign with the resources that we've got. It's got maps, it's got the character sheets, it's got the assets list if you would like to explore what assets, what sort of advancements are available for a character. And then, of course, we've got the recetus.fandom.com. That is going to give you some opportunity to check out the lore here, to check out how this world works and what adventures we've had already. Finally, you can use the quests command, which I will need to update here in just a moment, but that will include all of Igor's current vows. Y'all, I'll see you over in Discord. You can use the links command if you would like to head on over to the Discord where we have all of our midweek discussion. I thank you all so much for bearing with us here, especially through the totally bonkers adventures that we've had so far, and especially today with the whack dice rolls this was thrown at you. I am sorry about that. So we're going to have to make a decision. You had literally a 1% chance of it going super poorly, and that's the direction it went. Folks, thank you so much for joining me here today. I love y'all, and I hope you have enjoyed Night School at Vesperale Academy. Now let me see if there's anybody to rate on over to. I don't see anybody that I know particularly well, so instead, I will see you all later. I'll see you all in Discord. We have got some important questions to answer, and they will be over in Discord immediately. See y'all later. Bye-bye.